Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade, and I'll be damned. WWE netted $1.09 billion for the year of 2021. So that means we're definitely going to be talking about that WWE year-end conference call. Not much in the way of outside of WWE made $1 billion. I didn't see the wrestling media make a big deal about too much of anything. Though I did see some people try to make fun of Stephanie. We'll talk about that in a minute, because they always make fun of Stephanie. Because she does get a bit effusive, but she wasn't completely wrong here. So, what was in this thing that did I find so very interesting? Of course, none of the accounting. I'll let WrestleNomics do all the accounting and the graphs and all that stuff. I refuse to deal with it. I did enough of that stuff in college. I'm not even messing with it. So if you're looking to talk about the EBITDA and their accounting measures and all that crap, maybe WrestleNomics can help you. I'm just kind of poking out the juicier bits and discussing some of the things I found to be very interesting. So Vince, with his very tired voice, says that every year or every week they attempt to reimagine the business, and that their success speaks to their longevity and the opportunities that are in front of them. Vince doesn't really do much on these conference calls. He doesn't even answer questions, really. Stephanie and Nick Khan do most of the talking, and they handle most of the heavy lifting. So they're the ones you should be really listening to. So Nick Khan then gives you some of the numbers, and some of this stuff is absolutely staggering when you look at it. He compared Peacock's results, basically how their pay-per-views have been doing on Peacock, and compared them to 2019. Now, he began with Money in the Bank. He's trying to compare apples to apples. He's trying to compare, hey, this is what we were doing on our own with the WWE Network, and this is what we're doing with Peacock. And of course, he skips 2020 because of the pandemic, no crowd, stuff like that. So, crowd for crowd, what we could do on our own, what we're doing with Peacock. So this is what he had to say. This was his results. He's not going to give actual figures, but this ought to give you a general idea. He said Money in the Bank was up 25% in viewership over 2019. SummerSlam was up 30%. Extreme Rules was up 20%. The full-scale live event, which I believe it was Crown Jewel, was up 75%. And Survivor Series was up 25%. That's amazing stuff. You know, that's amazing. The Peacock penetration is really creating all kinds of material for them. It's really working out. He reiterates that the 3.5 million Peacock subs have watched WWE since March. He claims that they're having a strong in-ring product is what's bringing people to the table, and that more people are watching these premium live events than ever before. I don't know about the premium live events. Whatever you want to call them, people are watching them. They have access to them. Now, the 3.5 million, this has been out for a little while now. I think this came out when NBC did their earnings call. Or it was somebody else did an earnings call, and they was like, okay, how much is WWE bringing in? I think Peacock has about 9 million subscribers. It's not 9 million paid subscribers, something like that. And about a third of those watch WWE in some form or fashion. You know, without knowing the deep metrics, we don't know if they're watching the old stuff and the new stuff, if they're only watching the new stuff, or if they're only watching the old stuff. We don't know, but we know that they are watching WWE, and it's over double the amount of people who watch Raw, from what it seems like. So this is very interesting. Some people have debated this subject, and people debate these subjects all the time, like whether this is good or bad. Some people think, oh, it's not good. It can't possibly be good because WWE should have more viewers for the amount of money they're being paid. And without knowing what NBC is looking for, it's hard to tell. But they're touting it, and I guess that works. That's certainly more than the people who are watching on television, but we'll talk about that later because there's some really good questions about that. So he starts talking about how the marketplace values their intellectual property and that they have a dozen scripted and non-scripted television shows in the works, and we will be hearing about each one of those as time comes on. And that these shows, some will be with returning partners and some with newer buyers. He touted their trading card deal with Panini, the NFT marketplace. They have WWE branded lottery tickets coming up now. This stuff is just ridiculous. Lottery tickets. The Mattel deal was renewed. Then he said that the Mattel deal allows them to get into 50 different global markets. Wow. Day one replaced the mid-December pay-per-view, and he believed that holidays would be great for tourism and for the local audience in Atlanta. And he said not only was the show sold out, it was one of their highest viewed PLEs ever. It was 60% higher than any other mid-December pay-per-view. So all the Armageddons that they've had and TLCs, day one outperformed it. Tremendous. So Royal Rumble 2022, second largest gate in Rumble history, strong merchandise sales, and that the views were up 45% over 2021. Then he talked about, of course, the Disney Plus Hotstar deal, where he says it's a similar deal to the one with NBC, except for it's in Indonesia, and that they're doing a show with Ronda Rousey called Ronda's Places, in which WWE would be the executive producer. And it's based off of Peyton Manning's Peyton Places, which is, I guess, a show that he has. So because I didn't know what Peyton's Places was, I had to do my Googles. So I looked it up, and Peyton's Places is, according to IMDb, Peyton's Places, a football-themed documentary series hosted by legendary quarterback Peyton Manning. The 30-episode series revisits seminal moments in NFL history through conversations with former players, coaches, and other key figures about football and its cultural impact. So apparently they're going to be doing this, except for with Ronda Rousey. So I'm guessing it's going to be MMA. So they're going to give Ronda Rousey her own show. That ought to be interesting, because she's got the charisma of a kumquat. So I really wonder how that's going to work out. Ought to be interesting. Ought to be very, very interesting. So he spent some time talking about all the big acquisitions in the buyer space, gaming, theme parks, publishing, and they expect these things to continue. Of course, they're paying attention because gaming is very important, even though Stephanie kind of went into why gaming is so important for WWE. But they're paying attention to all of the big buyouts and different things like that, with Blizzard being bought up and everything. They're paying attention to all that stuff because eventually, rights fees come up. Who are you going to be dealing with? I've seen a lot of people ask the question, like, why does WWE care about, what Netflix is doing or what NASCAR is doing? It's like, for starters, it's called benchmarking, where you look at people who you feel are in similar positions to you, and you gauge their success to see if you could succeed. And then there's also, you benchmark to sort of have something to negotiate with or negotiate against. And when we get into Stephanie's part, which will actually be right now, you'll see why they follow certain sports and why they look at certain people in terms of what they feel like they should be getting on rights fees. So Stephanie, she is the chief brand officer, of course. So she says that WWE superstars are in demand, and she touted that Sasha Banks did the cold open for the national championship game on ESPN. Drew McIntyre did the MTV European Music Awards. I didn't know anything about that, but then again, I'm not in Europe, so of course I wouldn't know that. And of course, she touted that Big E did the cold open for Wilder and Fury. So those were big wins for WWE, getting their superstars out there, getting them visible. Paramount Studios paired up with WWE for Jackass, the Jackass movie crossover, and Knoxville's involvement in WWE left to garner 12 million video views across social media, and that the day of the Royal Rumble was the highest usage for Peacock in its history. They have a new sponsorship with DoorDash, which helped to sponsor the Royal Rumble. They have some positive indicators from the WWE 2K game trailer. And the reason why they focus so much on games, especially mobile games and stuff like that, is because they said 85% of WWE audience are gamers. And this is by their own self-identification. So there's a lot of dudes playing video games and watching wrestling, dog. And I'm not surprised. That's just kind of how the world is now. And then if you consider that a lot of their fan base is young, yeah, it makes sense. Or young, or, my generation grew up with video games. And a lot of us in that same mid to late 30s still play video games. So it's not that big of a deal. Shouldn't be that big of a surprise. I know people keep thinking that the average WWE fan is in their 50s. Like, okay, sure. They touted the NIL program, 16 athletes from 13 universities across 4 different sports. That they were looking for big personalities, athletic ability, and social media followings. They really, Stephanie really is kind of pushing the whole social media thing. They're just trying to bring in using wrestlers and athletes as influencers. That's really what they're trying to do. She actually came out and said those words eventually. But she talked about there being a clear pipeline for the people to continue being athletic when they don't make it into their chosen profession. So you don't get into the NFL or the NBA or the WNBA. There's always the WWE, where you can go and create your own brand that WWE will eventually own. So maybe not. You're going to go and create your own brand in WWE. Like, really? Because you own everybody's podcast. You own everybody's name and likeness. I don't know about that one, dog. That one, I see you being slippery, Steph. Anyway, this is the interesting piece. Stephanie McMahon said, according to YouGov, WWE has more fans in the 18 to 34 demographic across all platforms than the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, the UFC, Major League Baseball, MLB, and NASCAR. So this is something that, kind of stopped me in my tracks. So I decided to go look that one up. Unfortunately, I couldn't find it, so I'll take a word for it. But that's a pretty big deal, if true. If true, of course. So she talked about how WWE continues to dominate other sports. She says that 83.7 million YouTube subs, more than any other American sports league, most of them combined. She said the second is the NBA with only like 17 million. That in 2021, WWE's Facebook followers were the highest of any sports league, which led to 225% increase in revenue, and hours watched of their material that they posted on Facebook had doubled. Tremendous. They're now the number one sports brand on TikTok with 15.1 million followers, and that they have amassed over 50 billion total views across all platforms, raking in tens of millions of dollars in advertising revenue for WWE. So it makes a lot of sense why they chop up Raw and put it up on YouTube and put it out on Twitter and everything. Now, they just want people to watch it, How you view it, they're not really prioritizing how you view it either. They're just kind of putting this stuff out there. So, yeah, you're not sitting down and watching Raw all 3 hours. You may be watching a chopped up version of Raw, but you're still watching Raw, So, here's the thing that really got people in a tizzy. So, she talked about Q4 Survivor Series. And she says that the Pizza Hut integration with the Street Profits led to the fans chanting, "We want pizza." And she says that it talks about how successful and powerful integration can be when you have a fan-centered mindset, or something to that effect. So a lot of people started really kind of acting up, saying that, oh, Stephanie thinks that people were chanting for pizza because they had Pizza Hut. That proves that they did a good job. And it's like, this was Jimmy Van, the guy who runs Fightful, which is very weird because I was watching a Fightful stream of the network call, or the conference call rather. I just didn't have time to do anything else, and I was busy. But anyway, he made it sound like it was absolutely absurd. It's like, what is going on here? So I saw a lot of other people. I wish I could go and find the thread. Let me see if I can find the thread before I really kind of tear into it. So, in fact, I did find it. That was easy. So Jimmy Van, who owns Fightful, if I remember correctly, yes, no, he's the founder of Fightful, creator of Grap Grief. What is that? I don't know what that is. Oh, it's a nonprofit. Okay. So this is what he said. WWE says because live fans chanted "We want pizza" at the Street Profits, it showed how successful the Pizza Hut brand integration was. All right. Made it sound like it was completely ridiculous, right? And then you see one of the fans, they said something to the effect of, personally, I never even heard of pizza before WWE made me aware of it. This opens the debate. Is pizza a WWE homegrown talent? And somebody says, fans were chanting pizza during the MJF Punk match. What about the TNA chants at the Royal Rumble? Does that mean they want TNA? It seems that these people are stupid, right? This is what I mean by, look, I did this video a couple of months ago about how wrestling fans are supposedly higher IQ of any and all sports fans. These people are just super fucking stupid. There's a completely different concept that people are chanting different things for different reasons. You're removing context. They're promoting pizza, and now people are chanting for pizza. But also, when you don't quote Stephanie completely, you miss also what she's saying. She talked about how Pizza Hut was trending on Twitter. And then the live fans started chanting about "We want pizza" in conjunction with the Street Profits showing off and doing stuff and throwing pizza. In other words, you're promoting pizza and getting a response which is positive for pizza. You created the want for pizza. This is a completely different situation than people chanting "We want pizza" during or deep dish pizza or whatever, during MJF and CM Punk. That was a non sequitur. What the fuck did pizza have to do with that? Nothing. Nobody mentioned pizza. Nobody brought a pizza. Nothing had anything to do with that. People chanting TNA at Rude and Styles had nothing to do with TNA. It had everything to do with Rude and Styles being two guys from TNA, and the crowd was buying into the moment of these two TNA guys meeting in a WWE ring. No different than when they was chanting for ECW. What she is talking about is making Pizza Hut trend on Twitter because they integrated Pizza Hut into the show. Good or bad. Again, Stephanie is her part of the show when it comes to these conference calls. It's almost always the part where you really learn how the devil is in apathy, because Stephanie doesn't give a fuck if you didn't like it. And I can tell you that if you went back and looked at all of that trending about Pizza Hut and all whatever they were doing at Survivor Series, people probably hated it. But guess what? Pizza Hut was trending. People was talking about Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut was out there. It's on people's fingertips. She does not care that you did not like it. She doesn't care if you didn't think it was cool. She doesn't care if you think it was corny. Her job is to get you talking about Pizza Hut. She did it successfully. So this guy who runs a wrestling website, you should probably know that, because Fightful does clickbait horseshit all the time. All the time. If they can get something trending, they'll pat themselves on the back. That's all they were doing. That's all they did. She didn't say we created the concept of pizza and all the other hyperbole these guys were talking about. All she said was we integrated Pizza Hut into our product. Pizza Hut started to trend. The live audience actually started chanting "We want pizza." Wow. We promoted pizza and pizza got over. Holy shit. It's real simple. It's as simple as that. All right, so she also talked about Red Notice, that Netflix came to them for Red Notice, and then they built a storyline using Mr. McMahon, which gained 500 million impressions and 20 million views throughout social media. But what really kind of got some people all in a knot is that she called The Rock a WWE Hall of Famer, as if he's not. And people were kind of like, when did The Rock get in the Hall of Fame? I'm like, mother, come on. Are you serious? Are you serious? That would be like if somebody would say, NFL Hall of Famer Tom Brady. It's like, oh, is it official yet? No. Is it some way it's not going to be official? No. Unless Tom Brady molested a bunch of kids or something like that, he's going in the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt about it. There's no debate to be had. And the same thing for The Rock. So we might as well go ahead and cut out the middleman. And maybe she misspoke, and that was all there was to it. But why go back and fix yourself? Oh, no, he's not quite in our Hall of Fame yet. Let me correct myself about the fucking Rock. I'm telling you, man, wrestling fans, a lot of them need to just be born with dunce caps. They need that shit stitched to their head. They're idiots. Moving on. She talked about how sales and sponsorship revenue was up almost 30%, so maybe 28 or 29%. And that sounds pretty good. So the fun part for me is the Q&As. Almost always the Q&A is fun. So let's skip through for the sake of time, get into some of the more fun questions. So question 3 was the Disney Plus question. Somebody asked, why do only one country? Why just Indonesia? Why not just go all in on Disney Plus? Nick Khan responded, and I say Nick Khan is a smart motherfucker, man, because he has some really great responses to some of these questions. Nick Khan said, we take a region by region approach, which means a country by country approach to find the best partner in that region. And Disney was the strongest partner in Indonesia. In other words, he's not telling Disney, oh, yes, we will suck your dick for money. Just please come work with us, Disney, which is what most people think. He's like, no, we do business in Indonesia with Disney because that's the best partner in Indonesia. If we were in Brazil, we would be somewhere, we would do a different type of deal. And here's the crazy thing. If you actually look it up, you will see that that's actually smart. That streaming is big and more in other countries. Broadcast TV is better in other countries. Like, I think I just saw an article. Let's see if I can find it. Where they talked about which was better, streaming or broadcast TV. Now, this question came up because I was interested in this subject because it's going to come up again in a second. But it talked about basically a country by country breakdown and how people are consuming media. So it says online streams are higher in places like China. And wait a minute. Let me correct myself. It says roughly half of the fans in China, Indonesia, and Taiwan use live streams to watch sports. And then you go all the way down to the bottom and you see United States, only 17% of people watch sports on a live stream. While using TV, it is over 53% in the United States. In China, live streams are 54%. For TV, 66%. In Japan, it would be 13% that watched it online, that watched sports online. On TV, 63%. So you see, as you go back and forth, certain countries, you have to take a different metric. What countries are you looking at? How are they consuming media? You would make those deals accordingly. So that you can't go all in on Disney Plus because you will be cutting out and doing a bad thing in that market by doing that. So that's very smart shit. That's some very smart shit. Stephanie was asked about the metaverse. We'll talk about that in a second. So she was asked also to how does the NIL program differ from traditional hiring? She didn't really answer that question. She basically just repeated what she said earlier about it being a unique opportunity for athletes and all that kind of stuff. So question 12 was a very good question. It was about media rights and about linear and legacy media versus the direct to consumer, otherwise known as streaming media. Which one's better? Which one's best? What's going on with the Raw and the SmackDown. We'll talk about that stuff in a second. So Nick Khan says that scripted television isn't really selling as well on linear television, at least not as well as it used to, and that premium scripted creators are going to the streaming realm. While live is better for linear television, and at basic cable, live is as effective as it is on broadcast television, and broadcast television equals live. So for basic cable and broadcast television, live sports does very, very well. But regular scripted TV shows are not doing as well as they used to. So what you're seeing is people are now going to the streaming services for regular scripted television shows. Shows like, I don't know, what's it, like Orange is the New Black or something like that, Black Mirror or something like that. While sports like the NFL, college football, basketball, or whatever are still doing gangbusters on terms of basic cable and broadcast TV. So that's basically what he was saying. And like this guy, he knows his shit, man. This Nick Khan, man, he knows his shit. So he talked about this, and he says that basic and broadcast TV have been good to them, but streaming is essentially the future. And that ad-friendly content rather, helps them with both basic cable and broadcast, and that they feel the ad-supported tiers for streaming, that their content tends to be ad-friendly, so they feel like they have a strong position there as well. And he said they outperformed all of their Peacock expectations, at least they feel they have, and he feels that they deliver. So they were asked about extra engagement, which is kind of is broadcast still the right move when the Raw and SmackDown deals come up? When it's time to talk about money in terms of USA and Fox, are we going to be still looking at cable, or are we going to move to broadcast, or what are we going to do there? So Nick Khan, again, didn't really give away too much, and he's a very savvy guy too. So he says that he doesn't want to dismiss any buyers in any realm, but the premium dollars are for premium content, and that they're very happy with USA and Fox and with everything that's been going on, but they're definitely looking at all options. So in an earlier question, he talked about how broadcast television is so much better because it's a wider range of distribution, which tells me that maybe you're going to be looking at them probably trying to bring Raw to broadcast television, which could be good, but that's a 3-hour show. I don't know about that one, brother. Maybe that might be the way we get Raw back down to 2 hours, is if we can get it back on broadcast TV. Then they may even move NXT to broadcast TV too. But it's a smart deal. They're not giving up on TV because there's a large swath of people who still have televisions. But they also are not stupid and understand that there's a certain level of individual who are watching this stuff on stream, and they don't want to alienate those people either. So they're playing this tightrope where they got one foot in the streaming services with the PLEs and the pay-per-views and all that shit, documentaries and everything that they've been doing. But they also got one foot in broadcast television, and they still got 1 foot in cable and all that kind of stuff. So they got 3 feet. They're like a table. They got 4 feet. All right, they got feet everywhere. Okay, an octopus, an octopi. But so this was fun. It was pretty cool. Listening to them. Some of that stuff was kind of like, but for the most part, I think that they did a really good. They've been doing a really good job, man. And like I said, I'm on the verge of buying me some WWE stock and Vince gonna have to give me a piece of the kingdom. You know, he's going to send me a couple of pennies every quarter. You feel me? Shit, why not? But let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.
Skin tone, so why attach yourself and piggyback the wealth you didn't earn or lack yourself? I'm telling you to own up to your own success and failures. It's a reason why these sleazy guys